Thanks for joining us. We are going now, this is our one training for the week. We've been doing two for the last 10 weeks, 2 a week, and this week we're doing one. So thanks for taking the time to join us today. We're glad you're here. I know some of y'all have been programming. Maybe you're in the middle of programming, you're taking a break. Who knows what all is going on, but we're glad you're here. Everyone's on mute. And if you would please keep yourself muted while we go through the presentation. We'll have time for some questions and maybe a little bit of conversation through here, but you can unmute yourself. So if you would please just keep yourself on mute for the next little bit, and you can ask questions in the chat box. There'll be a few of us watching the chat box to pass questions on to Lynna. So Lynna Lawson presented several weeks ago at the beginning of this whole thing on mentoring. We were talking last week and we didn't have anything solidified for this week, and Lynna said, well, I can do something. So she has stepped up. She actually, what she's going to talk about today, she has had a hand in working on. I'll let her talk about what it is that the summer learning guide is, but she's been reviewing that and editing some things, and so she's been a part of that process. So Lynna, if you want to go ahead and take it away, and it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Brad. I'm glad to be here again this afternoon. And like Brad said, we were kind of at a loss of what to do this particular day since we changed up the schedule for program development. So our team, it's not just me, got together, and I said, well, I think we can put this together pretty quickly and have a session to learn about these resources that have been put together by the Georgia Statewide Afterschool Network. And it's also a consortium of the 50 State Afterschool Network. So the Missouri Afterschool Network is part of this, and Georgia had decided that because of the pandemic that they were going to develop these resources with the consultants, and that could be implemented right away, that you could use in your summer programming now. So the first set is out on Who Am I, which is the social emotional learning part. And so all of these activities that are going to roll out are things that you can do with a restricted setting in your classroom or your school building or your community building, or it's also designed for virtual and digital, and then also if you're using take-home packets. So these are all things that we're having to do now because of this current situation. So what we decided to do is reach out to people who are the experts. And so we have a wonderful panel of experts that are going to help us out today and give their current experiences on how to implement these. So I always say it's kind of interesting whenever you work with a group of people that a lot of the same ideas come up. You know, Georgia had probably some of the same ideas that we had, and you know, North Dakota or Nevada or wherever it may be, we're all professionals, get all the same kind of training, and then we have similar experiences and we're able to come up with the same thing. So it's good to pool these resources and make sure that things are accessible, and you know, you just don't have to reinvent everything. So I did get a chance to am reviewing some of the materials that they're presenting and give some feedback on them about how to improve them. But generally, they're already in pretty good shape, in my opinion. There are two ladies who are consultants, and then they have background in education, and then public health, and different kinds of things like that. I was going to have their names, and I just now flat forgot that I didn't tell. Rachel and Jennifer are their names, but I'll get you their specific names later. So anyway, so that's what we're going to do. It's not anything I created. As Brad says, we're going to copy and steal everything. And so I don't think we're stealing it, because Missouri Afterschool Network is part of it. And so we're sharing it this way. So I would be interested to know, they've had 2 webinars already. One was on March 28th, which gave the overview of what the summer activity packets are. And then there was one yesterday on keeping youth engaged. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on today. So if you'll put in chat, if you've been on one or both, it doesn't matter which, then just kind of give me an idea if you've already seen some of this, because it'll be some repeat, but with our panel today, we're going to customize it to Missouri. So I'm just going to, Brad, will you tell what's kind of the trend is on you know, if they've been involved in those other webinars.
So there's been a few that have been on both. Some have not. Answers are coming kind of slowly. It's kind of a mix. Looks like if they did one, they did both. And if they haven't been on, then obviously not been on any of them. So
yes. And we've had it it's been on Chat Pack and also in the information that Terry sends out. So just keep an eye on those. There will be more of those webinars coming, and just keep watching the MASN website, and your directors get emails about things that are going on. And then Erica and others have been putting it on Chat Pack on Facebook. So watch for those webinars and be sure to get on them if you can. So I think there should be another one next week as I understand. But so today, mostly we're going to focus on these different approaches, like I mentioned, face-to-face programming, the virtual, digital, and the take-home packet. So we hope that we know that you will understand that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the safety considerations. And then you will also tell us about the safety considerations that you're encountering and how is that working in your school. And, you know, even when you do pick up and drop off of packets, I think Casey or maybe Terrance mentioned that. So things to think about. The program delivery considerations for each of the approaches, and we'll identify some tips and tools to support youth engagement. So this will be a little bit of a rehash, and I will cover it some more at the end. So the packets that are available now are the Who I Am. That's available now, and so you can be using them right now. There are several for the younger kids, not quite as many for the kids ages 13 through 18, but they're available and ready to go. The next ones that will roll out will be Healthy Life, Passion and Purpose, Invention and Imagination, which is a STEM type one, and Exploring My World. And the age groups are broken down in this way. School age, obviously, 5 through 9, 10 through 12, 13 through 15, and 16 through 18. So this just, there's two different parts of the handouts that are available. So the activities they're a little more time intensive. They're a one-time event. They have time for reflection and discussion. They're tied to a theme and intentional skill building. So as I mentioned, you know, the Who I Am ones are the social emotional learning. The challenges are a little bit different. They're quicker and easier to implement. They have an ongoing component, and they're tied to a theme, again, with intentional skill building. So that remains the same in that. So again, we're going to talk about the virtual, digital, take home, and in person. And let me get my little cheat sheet here. So obviously, sometimes we might think that virtual and digital are the same, and they are very similar. But in the description of how the consultants have put this together, the virtual is when you might have a lesson where you use Zoom, and where you actually have some synchronous connection with the kids over some kind of platform. And whether it's Google Hangouts or Zoom or whatever that might be. And then the digital would be strictly like through email, or the kids interact on the Google Classroom or something of that matter. You know, they may take a picture of their project and send it to you. So there's, that would be like an asynchronous. It would be, you might have a due date of when you want the kids to send back the results of their activity, but there's no video per se. And then take home, we all know what that is. I know many of you already have done the packets even when the pandemic hit in March. And so you guys developed right away take home packets to send with the kids. And so that's the definition of that. And then in person, the face-to-face one, that's where we are now. So several are doing the programming with the kids in the building, and, you know, having the kids back in the space, going to recess, having lunch, and learning together, and hopefully having a good time. So those are the the 4 different approaches. that we're going to talk about today, and we're going to go to our experts and have them tell us what they know about that. I hope this is the right slide. I'm going to skip that one for now. Well, wait, no, I won't. Well, and these are some things that are the heightened things that you need to be aware of when you do these activities. So the connection, this is part of helping keep kids safe. So the connection, kids may be missing a connection to positive and caring adults like you guys. And this connection is important for tweens and teens. Social distancing can be tough on them because peers are so important to them at their developmental stage. Lots of young people have missed milestones or celebrated at home, like proms and graduations. They've missed out on sports. Young people haven't been able to have their, high school baseball tournaments and all that kind of thing. So they're missing that connection. Engagement, we need to consider the barriers to engagement, like the internet access, parents who might be working outside the home or inside the home, and the lack of resources and supplies to support engagement. So those could be barriers to their full engagement. You need to have a good consistency and routine to have the kids experience a sense of control and comfort. With all the unexpected changes kids may have experienced, they would benefit from programs and structures that provide consistency and routine. Their emotional well-being considerations. Young people have experienced a range of emotions. They have enjoyment, they're worried, sometimes they're sad, and often indifferent. But pay attention to the program structure, your routine, the environment, and the program that helps kids feel safe and allow them to process these emotions and experiences. So, and as you know, we're talking more and more about mental health. The longer things go on, and as Dr. Sims talked about, is the trauma that may not be obvious sometimes. So even though kids may have received some supports, they have to adapt to the changes that they're going through, and some will go through that easily and some may not. So programs need to recognize the signs and symptoms of trauma and making the procedures. And then again, reaching out to hard to reach young people. So it takes a little bit of effort to reach certain kids. Some programs are sending notes and letters, drop off food, do drive-by with signs, have targeted invitations. They might be posting videos or having online virtual contests. And then we're going to be interested in what creative ideas that you have for reaching disengaged or hard to reach youth. Okay, so when we consider implementing these programs, again, we've talked about this before, internet and device access, what kind of support do they have at home? Do they have the supplies? And then whenever you implement these guides, how often will you deliver them or do that? Will you do them 2 a week or one a week, or maybe every day, depending on the length of your program or how long you're going to do the virtual programming? And so then the flow, what components of a program will you include? What are the ground rules? Give the kids an icebreaker, go over the instructions and demonstration, activity and challenge completion, have some group discussion and so forth. So these are, just things that you would do in your classroom or your building where your program occurs or wherever it may be. These are things you would do, but the difference is the kids are separate from each other, virtual, digital, or they're engaging through their take-home packet. So we'll go through these one more time. The in-person programming, and as you guys well know, the group and structure and size is very important, and sanitation. We've all read the CDC guidelines, and is your school requiring masks? Did you move the desk? Are you staying all in one room? Those are all important things to consider to keep kids safe. In the in-person program, you'll want to pay attention to implementing the program based on the safety and social distancing. And then, are you able to reintroduce some routines and procedures? Are the kids all going to be able to use the swings out on the playground? Or will there be a time that you can move to the cafeteria? So those are some things that as we learn more about the COVID-19 and what kinds of things that we can do, then you'll be able to adjust that as you go along. In virtual program, as we talked to some degree in the virtual mentoring, there's some safety considerations. You want to choose the right platform, the one that will work best for your school. You want to reduce the risk to staff and youth. We talked about screening and making sure that if you do have several kids on, don't be with just like one child, much like you would do in your face-to-face setting. Control the access to the platform that you're using, and then make sure that there's emotional safety. So no bullying, such as what Tina Meyer talked about. And then again, delivering your virtual programming. Technology matters. How long does the session last? You don't want to do long sessions for younger kids, and then, or even if you do tweens or maybe teens, do an activity, drop off, and then come back and finish up. And so then again, consider the size. We've all been in the meetings where there's lots and lots of people and you can't get a word in edgewise, or your chat gets lost or something like that. So consider, and that the age matters on that too. And then also make sure that the materials are readily available for the kids, that whether you're sending them to them or that are items that they probably would have in the home, or they could make a dash to the Dollar General and grab them. So this is high quality facilitation, and we're all learning this. So, we need to set out the ground rules. Like whenever Brad does our sessions, he tells us about, how we, mute our mic, and then also how we manage our video, how you can use the chat. And, if you feel like you need to speak up, you can put it in the chat box. So there's allowance for that. So every time you do the what the ground rules are for what you're doing with your group of kids. Again, icebreakers, we had ice cream break, icebreaker, and you guys all know how to do icebreakers. And then Eric told us how to do some things with kids, whenever we start with the virtual programming. And so just something to get them engaged right away. And then he also talked about how to do things throughout the interspersed. Programming loops kind of keep things connected, and so that everything seems to match together. Whatever you do in a presentation, follow all the steps just like you would in a classroom. And and then follow some of the tips and tools that you can find on the internet and through these trainings and so forth to help support the engagement for the kids. So virtual programming is a big section of this, of these, what materials have been provided for this summer activity guides. And that seems to be where most people are, at least through the country. So that one has a lot of focus. And so digital programming, again, is the one where there's not any video or that kind of thing. So again, you need to consider the safety, the technology, the programming loops, and the tips and tools. So it's kind of a bit of a mashup between virtual and the take-home packets. Minus the computer, with the computer. And then the take-home program, again, many of you have been doing that. Same safety considerations. And many of you have been delivering the take-home packets, providing even the activities and the materials. And then also you've been supporting engagement by, maybe some of you are offering that they can mail them back, or take pictures of them and email them back, which goes back to kind of a digital thing if they have that. But certainly the most rudimentary one is that they can bring the packets back to the school and drop them off. So that's enough of me. So let's go to the experts. And so we are going to, I want to recognize Terrance Cauley from Better Family Life in Normandy, Casey Conklin, Warrensburg Adventure Club, Rebecca Longenecker, I hope I pronounced that right, in Nixa, Cris in Nixa, Tyler Hudson at the Boys and Girls Club of West Central Missouri, and Gabrielle Inyart. And then we also have Colleen Abbott from Eldon School District, and they're going to give us an overview of what they're actually doing and maybe we could get some more ideas, and then certainly we want to have time where you guys can tell ideas that you have about what you've been doing over the time. So we will follow the same order. We're going to talk about, well, let me get my sheet here. First, we're going to talk about the in-person programming. And we have Rebecca and Cris and Tyler are going to do that. And so I see that Rebecca and Cris are together, and we will have them take the floor first and talk about what they're doing in Nixa, and then Tyler can tell us about what's going on at the Boys and Girls Club.
Hey everybody. Well, we pretty much never stopped. So we've been working ever since this thing has started. Right after our spring break, we took a week to start planning for a program that provided services for first responders and medical workers. So we took a week and got that all set up, got everybody registered, and we had that at 2 locations, at one of our intermediate schools in a gym and one of our elementary schools in a gym and a cafeteria. At first, the enrollment was really, really high, and then it looks like families and friends, all those people found, you know, family members to watch their kiddos or grandma and grandpa. We ended up probably about 45 altogether between our little, we took toddlers all the way up to 8th graders. So we did that service all the way until school ended, which was, I believe, last Friday. It ended. And now we have a couple weeks here where we're getting prepared for summer school, before and after school programming, because our school district is having a summer school. From our dates are June, I believe, June 8th to July 2nd. We'll have a summer school, seated summer school at Nixa Public Schools, and we'll provide before and after school care for that. And then right after that, we jump right into our camp program, which we'll have all the way till August 20th. And that will be in person as well. The big things we learned from all these programs, social distancing is really tough. I mean, that's the big thing, right? We had kindergartners to 3-year-olds in our preschool program that just wanted hugs and loves, and it's hard to push those kiddos away and not provide that for them. We had kiddos with special needs that needed that love too as well. But all in all, they did pretty good, redirected pretty well. We were pretty lucky during that first responder medical camp, medical staff worker camp or program, that the kiddos were doing online schooling, so they were able to do a lot of that, and we were able to assist with that and be tutors for that during that part. For the summer school coming up, we're going to implement a lesson plan. We have a theme, a circus theme that we want to do, and with this summer school program and also the camp program, we have capped it just to meet, you know, for the safety guidelines. And we've been pretty fortunate because not a lot of families are using our programs because they found moms, dads, grandma, grandpa's, babysitters, family members to take care of their kids, because they're still kind of, it's still early. It's still, we don't know. It's still kind of scary, but at the same time, we know we need to be here for those kiddos. So that's kind of how we look. We had the first responders care going into our seated summer school, after school, before and after school program, and then we'll go into our camp until hopefully school begins in August. So that's kind of how we look like here in Nixa.
Rebecca, did he say everything right?
He did. Yeah. I'll talk more later. You'll get more, I promise.
All right.
It's usually her.
Yeah, I was like, it is usually me who talks all the time, and I'm sure Brad will tell you that. So yeah, I let Cris take that. So
all right. Well, thank you, Cris. So, okay, that sounds good. So let me see. Is Terrance on the call? Okay.
it's on there. He just needs to unmute.
There you go, Terrance.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Gotcha.
having
All
all
right.
kind of computer issues, but I'm here. I'm sorry, did you ask a question?
Looks like Lynna may have frozen. I think she was just going to ask you to share what's going on in your programs, Terrance.
Terrance, are you're doing in person as well, right?
Well, no, not at this point. What I discussed with her this morning is what we've done since the shutdown and how we've tried to navigate around some of the technology shortcomings we have here in the Normandy area.
Okay.
We participated with the district in, there's really that technology divide is very real in our community here, and so it's a hit and miss to a certain degree in certain areas across the what they call the 24-1 communities that make up the Normandy district. So right out of the gate, we started assisting the district with trying to deliver home packets to keep kids up to speed with in-school work. And with that, we linked all of the things that we would normally try to do in after school with that. So we were delivering packets of school work for kids from the classrooms, as well as packets of activities that they would have normally engaged in through some of our like Fit for Fun curriculums, our America Scores, poetry curriculum, and even with some of the soccer stuff. Some of the kids do have, and actually, and I should say that it seems to have increased over time in terms of their having access to the internet and Wi-Fi services. So what we were able to do was create a after-school portal that was linked to the district, and our various educators and partners have created different programs that are linked to what they would have been doing anyway, so kids can come on at various times during the after-school hours and participate in soccer drills. They've done with our Baba Ed, we have a class where they do African percussion, and so they've been able to improvise and use percussion type instruments in their home. And he even did a class where they were shown how to create their own drum. So they've engaged in various activities through this after school portal. And in addition to that, we've also our youth specialists on a daily basis would choose a certain group of kids to call and reach out to maintain contact with. So they have these call logs that they are reaching out to kids just to check on them, help them with various resources or homework or anything that schoolwork they might have been doing. So there's just been a check-in. Some of our social workers have also been involved in providing counseling for some of the older kids at the high school level. So it's really been just a matter of us trying to maintain a connection as much as possible with as many kids as we can. Really not clear at this point what the summer, well, I should say that the intention is to have a summer program, but it won't be an in-person program. So it'll be done online. And so we're going to just plan to follow along with that with the district in terms of trying to maintain the connections that we have and plan around what the future is going to look like going into the fall. I hope I'm kind of speaking to the question. I don't even know if I'm being heard at this point.
You are, Terrance, and I realize I created a faux pas. I meant to call on Tyler instead of Terrance, but that's okay. So we will work through this, because certainly you talked about the digital and the take-home activities that you've been doing there in Normandy, and we can follow along on that. So
yeah,
I'm glad you called on him, because I wanted to see that COVID beard. That's looking good, Terrance.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
So. Okay, thank you, Terrance.
Right.
And now I'm going to call on Tyler to go ahead and talk about what they're doing in person at the Boys and Girls Club.
Sure. Well, hi, everybody. So what we've been doing, we are now in the third week of our summer program. We started 2 weeks earlier than normal here in Sedalia, and we have an elementary program that our sites normally in the school year were pretty much all school-based sites. So the school district has allowed us to get into the building for the elementary program 2 weeks early. So we started that May 18th. Numbers were very low compared to what we normal summer program. We see 200 elementary kids or so a day. We started out in the 50s, and then now we're up to today we have 124. So the trend is definitely going up. I think more people are starting to become comfortable with things. We've had to go through a wide variety. Well, in our program is a 6:30 to 5:30 every day, Monday through Friday. We've had staffing has been a challenge in order, because we're keeping these groups of which we thankfully were allowed. We started off where we had to have a 1-to-9 ratio, and that's as big as each group could be. Now we've been allowed by the health department to go to 1-to-12, which has helped. Because we were getting close to a situation where we were going to have a waiting list, but thankfully we're not in that anymore. But we've had to basically relearn how we're doing things. Normally, as far as our programming, we break it into grade levels during the summer, and there's usually some staff that have some special, the certain program they run, STEAM, or they run art. Everybody's had to learn to be generalist in everything since they can't mix with their groups. Different groups can't mix. So it's been going very well. Got some positive comments about how staff actually having the smaller group, that they can get to know their kids a little better. So, there's positives with their, and of course the negatives, but we've been, as far as safety precautions, you name it, we have it. We don't allow parents to come in the building. We do temperature checks when they come. We do temperature checks at lunch and at snack. Thankfully, we're able to use some technology to use tablets to digitally record those temperatures. That's been working well. So the Google Docs has been helping us with that. We've been eating lunch and snack in the classrooms, which actually is, to me, it's a lot smoother than having them in the cafeteria. It's a lot quieter and a lot, of course, just getting it around to them. And now that we're getting, the first couple of weeks with low numbers, it was pretty quick getting lunch, but now we're starting to see more and more. It's slowing down, but we're making it through. I'm really trying to think what else. We're still in a point where usually we take the kids swimming. We're not doing that yet, and also no field trips yet. We're kind of waiting to see where things are going. We're hoping to eventually do swimming. But as long as we're still not allowing anybody in the building, other than the kids or staff, it doesn't make sense to take them out into the public around others. So that's kind of where we're at with things, and we're just chugging along. So just only 13 weeks of summer program instead of 10.
So Tyler, there was a question in the chat box. Are those temps and records required by the Boys and Girls Club or by the school?
It's just something that this is something the Boys and Girls Club is required, just from guidance from Boys and Girls Club of America and health, different things. That's just something we're just doing internally, keeping records and, showing that we're doing our due diligence to, and it helps us to identify if we see a kid's trending up on temperature during the day that, might be something developing there. But knock on wood, we haven't run into that yet, but we are prepared because we have an isolation room set up. So if we did have a situation where we needed to isolate a kid and get them home, we do have that ready.
Do you have a threshold of temperature for kids that
Yes.
has been given by your CDC?
Yeah, we're at 100.1 is what ours is. Instead, I think it's 100.3 is what CDC, because our own policy is if a kid in the normal world, if the kid had a temperature of 100 above, we would send them home. So 100.1 is where we're at. We also do have a list then of other, so if they don't have a fever, we have a list of 10 other symptoms. That if they had any 2 of those, then we wouldn't allow them to come into the building. We'd have basically they'd be on a 48-hour hold where they have to wait to come back to try to get in again.
So there's another question, and this, Tyler or Rebecca and Cris, how are you handling outdoor time and sunscreen?
Well, sunscreen's like normal. We just as far as outdoor time, we've been trying to get the kids outside as much as possible. We try, since they're so cooped to their one room that they can be in. We've been trying to do as much outdoor time as possible, and that also helps be able to. We're lucky with the school that we're using that they have a super huge playground that we can really spread out. We have been allowed just this week to start using the playground equipment again. And we've been doing some sanitizing of that equipment after each use. So that's been going all right so far.
Yeah, that was the big thing. Like with us, we've been able to use the equipment, but we just sanitize the equipment more often. So like we sanitize the equipment after every usage, which does kind of, it's hard on our staff, but it's what we have to do to keep everyone safe. And it does help with them because our area is bigger outside, they can be more separate. So the social distancing is better outside because they have more space to be away from each other and stuff.
And let's see, I saw a question here about, are you applying the sunscreen? No, we don't apply sunscreen to the kids officially.
But you could do that if it was a spray sunscreen, correct?
Right.
I mean, obviously that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Switch to that.
Yeah. That's what we recommend, that they do that.
And then just one more question. Lynna, do we have time for one more before we move?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think the face-to-face one is going to be the one that everyone wants to know about, because maybe moving forward in the fall, things are going to open up and maybe everybody will be doing in person.
Yeah. So a couple of questions have popped up for Rebecca and Cris and Tyler. Basically, how are the kids adapting? How are they handling the new norm?
They've been actually, there hasn't really been any major, actually they seem a little bit more behaved than normal actually. And I don't know if it's just being in the smaller groups, adapting to the fact that the staff, which our staff are required to wear masks. We did start the summer where we were told that the kids had to have them as well, but thankfully that went away after the first week because that was weird having all these kids with masks on. But it's been actually they've been doing very, very well. Kids are pretty adaptable to things. I think it's more of the staff adapting to it and having to keep the mask on is more of an issue than anything.
Yeah, I think a lot of our kids have thrived, because the smaller group atmosphere has really helped, especially on our behavior students. Our friends who need a little extra help, the smaller, the 10 to 20 kids in a group has been great for them. So they've been really good. Obviously, we had to remind them, we don't, hug our friends like we used to, but we can do other things. So there was a curve of just teaching them the policies and procedures of we don't hug all of our friends, and you have to, we can't sit right next to each other, but we can still talk and have conversation. And then the big thing is that when we first started, we had a lot of trouble with their hands and their mouths and stuff. And we're like, oh, you have to go wash your hands. So after they did that for about a week, they realized, oh, I don't want to wash my hands 50 times a day because my hands are in my mouth. So they adapt and they learn. They were learning through the process for sure. So.
All right. So there's, are you restricting visitors? Any updates on parental compliance upon entry? And then have you held small group events for parents maybe?
So if you don't know, XLT is a school-based system. So a lot of our policies and procedures have been created from the school and administration, with Cris and I working closely with them. So visitor-wise, district-wise, no visitors are entering the facility at this time. Obviously, as we go through the summer, those things could be adjusted, but right now there's no visitors into our facilities. Parent drop-off and pickup wise is a lot different, but it's worked really effectively. Because we're in a school setting, they enter through the front doors, and they do not, there's a breezeway in every school. So the parents do not enter unless they have to, and they can only go as far as the first set of doors that we have set up. And then for pickup, and they're not signing in and out, my staff are signing them in and out, just because we don't want the parents any further than they have to be. And then as far as pickup is going, we started implementing kind of like if you do like a car line system. So every parent gets like a piece of like a paper that has their kid's name on it. And when they pick up, they just hold it up at the door and our staff take the kid out and hand the kid off outside. So as much where my staff are kind of interacting with the kids back and forth, not where the parent has to and all that. So it's gone pretty smoothly. Obviously, there's a few things like if like a parent picks up and doesn't have it, we have to still check IDs and things like that. But restricting the parents not actually coming into the building has been the most effective and has worked really well. And all the parents seem to be able to do it and they don't mind doing it. They understand and all that. We just pretty much emailed them all beforehand and said, this is how it's going to work. If you have any questions, you can always contact us. But most people were like, we understand and we'll do it. So that's kind of the pickup, drop off procedures that we put in place that seem to be working.
And then from my end, the program coordinator end, no parents ever hasn't came to me yet asking to have some parent gatherings or anything like that. So we haven't ran into that as of yet. So
Yeah, and on ours, it sounds like we have the same as far as the pickup process. The drop-off process for us is the parent and the kid have to stay in the car. They drive up, our staff come out, the temperature check happens in the vehicle. Then we ask them the questions as far as if they have any signs or symptoms, and then we allow them in. We spray their hands with hand sanitizer, and then we let them in the building. So that's how we've been doing it.
Good deal. Okay, I think we want to thank Cris and Tyler and Rebecca for sharing about how they're handling the in-person activities. And we, if we have time, we might ask you a few more questions. So, as a full panel. So let's talk about virtual. Terrance has shared some of the things that he's been doing at Better Family Life at Normandy. And so we have Gabrielle Inyart from Mission St. and please.
Sorry, you kind of broke up. Can you repeat it?
You're on stage, Gabrielle. You're first to talk about the virtual programming you're doing at for Mission St. Louis in your after-school setting.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure there wasn't like a specific question. So we've, ever since March, we've been doing virtual programming, continuing any way we can. But starting next week on Monday, we will have 3 weeks of a virtual summer session. Our program is it's pretty academic focused. So we focus on individual academic support with our students, enrichment classes, and social emotional learning lessons. So as of right now, they'll have each of our team members will have a group of students that they're in charge of communicating with virtually. And so they'll do some group enrichment classes, a variety of things, and then they'll have a group social emotional learning lesson each week, and then they'll meet individually with each of the students 3 times a week to do math lessons and 3 times a week to do literacy. As of right now, we have about a little over 75 students signed up. We're still enrolling them this week. And we've been working with the school. The schools have been really helpful, and we've been able to work with them to try to alleviate any technology issues. And the school is allowing the students in our program to keep their computers through the summer so that they can participate in our program. Obviously, we have run into issues similar to what Terrance was saying, where there's still just some students that even if we're offering and trying to figure out, some of it isn't just getting them a computer, it is a Wi-Fi issue. So we're trying to work with them on those in any way that we can. And I think, honestly, those individual times with our students have been really successful, especially that just like social emotionally, just being able to have someone who's focused 100% on them for even if they are reading a book, but then they stop and they're just talking about their day or, hearing out what they're worried about or what's going on at home. I think that has been really helpful for our students. So that's just like a little short summary.
Okay, thank you, Gabrielle.
Mhm.
So, and Casey, do you want to share about Adventure Club?
Hi, I'm Casey Conklin. We're at Warrensburg Adventure Club, and when you called me this morning and you were like, you know, you're the expert on this, I do not feel like the expert on this at all. Okay, I just want to say that. My staff are doing amazing at this. I'm playing catch up with how technologically savvy I have had to be in such a very short time. During the closure, we were doing 2 social media posts, and they were based around STEAM and SEL. We just wanted to keep contact with our families as the best we could. We also were supporting with food services, delivery, and curbside. So now that we are out of COVID closure and our school district has decided to not have summer school and also not have camp with us, we adapted really quickly, like in a day, and I put together some kind of plan, just knowing my staff could pull it off, but didn't know how we were going to do it. And we ended up coming up with some pretty cool stuff. And we launched it all on Tuesday to our parents. We emailed them, and we have already had 30 enrollments. And in that time, all of my coordinators were calling their families to screen the families to see if they would be interested in a virtual camp, and to kind of get a temperature check of where they were. Like if they didn't have, internet access or resources, could we bring them things weekly to do? We also, because of the budget cuts on the school district level, our school has lost funding that they were going to continue to put into the food program during the summer. The transportation funding isn't there, so the deliveries to the homes that we were doing for kids that are home by themselves or families that can't get to the schools to get the lunches and the breakfasts and the snacks that were offered are now not getting those services. But we've been fortunate enough that we as Adventure Club are still going to be able to get out there and deliver to the families that were already registered in our program when we closed down for COVID. So we're at least going to get to support some of those families in that way. So we're really excited about that. We also are able to bring resources to those families if they're unable to get internet or classes. But basically the short of it is we've got this flyer we threw together, and it's amazing. I'm so proud of my people. I didn't do this. I was just like, I threw the problem at them and then they threw something back amazing at me. So again, we're going to stick to our cores, which is the STEAM and the SEL learning. We've kind of thrown an element in there that's kind of exciting to me, and I'm going to get filmed, which is going to be really weird, but we're going to be doing community adventures. So we're going to go into businesses and landmarks, and we're going to do virtual field trips. So we're going to film some commentary of what they're seeing and what they're doing. And I would like to introduce some of our large industry in the area to kind of get an idea of what are some of the job opportunities, that the kids in the community that they live in, for the kids in the community they live in. So that's kind of a neat way to kind of implement that. And what's kind of cool about this virtual thing is we've recorded it. So it doesn't mean that once we're all back together, we can't show it again. It's like there and available even later. So that's kind of exciting to think about that too. So we're just kind of going with it, and we have a plan, and we start Monday. So we had 1 week to like whip it together and get people registered and get it going. Yeah. So it's really exciting. We miss our families. So we're excited that we're going to integrate the recorded pieces, but we are going to do live Zoom meetings. So we're going to have a K through second Zoom. We're kind of calling it a play date. Like we're going to do a show and tell or whatever, which, think about us, because could be up to 40 kids that we've got muted at the same time trying to talk and communicate. And who knows what they're going to bring into the screens. I mean, oh my goodness. So that should be a learning curve, but we're excited. We're going to work on that. And then on Fridays, we are going to try, and this is way above my brain level, but I have really smart people. Ricky is he is our STEAM coordinator, and he is going to launch a live gaming kind of thing. We have a forum that he's using, and maybe he'll throw in the information in the chat so that I don't misquote anything, but we're going to have that so that the kids can interact that way with each other in that kind of forum. So.
Right. That sounds great, Casey. So it's, what you're saying about your team, it just takes everyone to make things happen, and a lot of synergy from all of the ideas and different interests of the staff people you know. And your community, so you know how to solve problems there.
Yeah. Thank you.
So,
Okay.
go
ahead.
real quick. Sorry. Do you have time for a question? There's a question for Gabrielle. Have you scheduled individual sessions weekly at the same time? And do you have any tips for educators on how to reduce no-shows on Zoom?
No-shows. I don't know if there's a solution for no-shows. What we've done for summer, we haven't scheduled them at the same time. Each team member is reaching out to the parents and the students to figure out and schedule times that work best for them. I mean, obviously it would probably be like at 10 a.m. on, it wouldn't be a different time every day, but working with the student to kind of figure out what times are best for them. And then we're sending the parents a schedule over email so they can kind of keep track of that. And then we'll send either Zoom or Google Hangout invites to the students specifically. Our students have been, they really like technology if they're able to access it. I think they enjoy like getting calendar invites and or sending them. I've gotten a couple calendar invites from students before that. And I think they, it kind of makes them feel like they have a little autonomy on that. But as far as no-shows, we just try to remind them and reach out and G-chat if they're not logged in, or follow up later to reschedule. But I don't know if there is a solution, because especially if it's a nice day and they're outside playing with their siblings or something, or their siblings are playing video games, sometimes it's hard to be more exciting than that. But we're just trying to keep up the variety. And with our enrichment classes, we are dropping off little supply packets. So we're hoping that like if they get all the supplies, that will kind of encourage them to log on at the time, because they've already got all of the ingredients to make cookies or put together this science experiment or something. So that will maybe entice them to log in.
All right. Thank you, Gabrielle. Let's have Colleen chime in from Eldon School District about how that they use the take-home packets.
Yeah, so we have a couple different things that I was going to talk about and especially speaking on that. And so we've done everything from when we were during the closure time, we did things like they were connected virtually on Google Classrooms, and then they would also, especially with like our middle school, they had a couple of different times that they dropped off, and we sent those out with our food deliveries a lot of the time. And then a couple of the times the staff and coordinator just split up those kids, and they went and took them to the different ones that had engaged. And so, for example, one day they came together and cut everything that a kid would need for masks, and then they did a demonstration on how to hand sew those masks, and they could and then they also had a direction. So if they didn't have the computer, they were able to do it that way as well. We had some elementary groups that did a variety of different things. They did some different, we tried to focus on either items that they'd have in their house or items that we had like in the LEAP office. So for example, we had a zillion straws from something. And so one came up with an idea, and they did all kinds of different things that was like straw construction. And the teacher used Ziploc bags and put all of the straws in, and then we again sent those out with the food delivery at that time. We also did try to do some different family engagement, and so we had like an Eldon specific crossword puzzle that talked about like places in our town or different things like that, and they did that crossword puzzle, and then they sent it to, and that all went out through our Facebook page. And then we had a random drawing for a gift card to our local ice cream shop that had not closed down because they were selling toilet paper, of course, what you always pick up at your local ice cream parlor. But that was one of the things that we did kind of during that time. Another one, if I can share the screen real quick, I can't take any, maybe not. Can we share screen or not? Is that okay? I'm going to just bring up our Facebook page so you guys can kind of see it. So this was actually the winner. So this was whenever the federal guidelines came across, like you don't always think about, I don't know like who all you guys have as staff, but some of our key staff are our bus drivers, and our bus drivers for our after school program are amazing. They care so much about their kids. They're constantly doing things. And they got together and they did social emotional lessons. They did all kinds of things. And so this was actually the last picture. I should have started correctly. Let me get my Zoom window out of the way here. And so this was one of our bus drivers. And this was her little mobile that she did. And it was a whole thing on create your own sunshine. And so she went around her bus route in town and delivered little bags of, it had a little note from her. It had directions on how to grow your sunflower. It had a little bit about science, like STEM activity, as far as like what happens when a seed grows. And then you can see she has on her PPE there, but she took them around to all of her kiddos, and they were so excited to see her. But from the beginning, that's Tammy, and she had called me like day 2, like we ended school on the Thursday. We had already planned to be out of school. That Friday was a normal day off. By Sunday night, she's like, Colleen, what do I do? I can't not be doing something. And so she helped with meal delivery. She did all kinds of things. But her real connection was with the after school program. She's a regular day cook as well, but she was like, I wouldn't have known of any of these things had I not been connected to the LEAP program. And so I'll just kind of flip through on some of these, but it was just something that made a huge difference to those kids. And we heard a lot of positives. So you kind of see the bag there that has a little Jiffy pot, some soil in it and some seeds, and then the little sheet. And then she also asked them to write an essay about how could they bring sunshine to their home and what could they do to make it positive, even when it's not, the best and those kind of things. And so that was just one of the things that was absolutely unique, totally her idea, and absolutely loved that that's what she did. There was a lot of really great response because that was pretty noticeable, driving through our community. And so people were like, what was the deal with this, the smiley face, lady in the whatever machine that is, UTV. And so it was one of those deals that a lot of people like that. A lot of people just continue to say, we're so glad you guys are keeping track of kiddos and that kind of thing. And that was something that was just really, really positive. This one doesn't look so excited, but it is one of those things that overall they were pretty excited. And that's even one of our middle schoolers. So they thought it was really great. And then again, we put it on Facebook and then everybody shared it. And then that was Elizabeth. And she's one of our middle school kiddos, and she shared what she did. And so her essay won, so to speak. So then Tammy brought her back a Gerber daisy and some goodies in that bag. And so that was just a really cool thing. So you can make it as unique as you need to. And I think that's one of the deals that we're a little more rural. And because it was a bus route, like she knew exactly where everybody lived. Excuse me. But that's one of the kind of the things that we did in some of the kind of take homes or send homes that we tried to do.
Thank you, Colleen. That's awesome. So there's just lots of different ways to do these different delivery methods between the in-person, virtual, digital, and take home. And we still have a little time. And what I want to do next is maybe just we have like a few little prompt questions, and maybe some of them have already been answered. But let me get to here. So again, I want to be sure and thank the presenters right now before I forget. And don't forget that Colleen was one of them, even though I didn't get her on the slideshow. So thanks to all of them. And let's give them a virtual applause from your chat box, the little clapping hands that is there. So, but I do have one more thing, kind of the questions I'm thinking about, and you guys have kind of addressed it. So you know, you have these expectations of things that, you know, how it should go and how it really goes. And so I don't know. I wish Clint was on here. I did this for him. I mean, I did know he was at camp, but he's out right now. But so we have these ideas of how we want things to go. And so some of the questions we have, and as I said, you have addressed some of them. You know, Tyler mentioned that, you know, the masks on the children was not working out. I believe it was Tyler that said that. So I just, you know, whoever wants to go first from our panel, what are some things that maybe that you fretted over, or maybe it like turned out not to be a big deal? I know some of you talked about how the parents didn't mind that the procedures were changed. Just something that really stands out to you that maybe was a worry or concern, and you know, maybe it's okay that you look like Will Ferrell, you know, playing cowbell. So, any thoughts?
I will just say we're back in our regular programming. We've worked a lot with our health department. I'm not going to say that we're a model of everything, because we're not doing every suggestion that was there from Missouri School Board or CDC or whatever, but we're doing what our community can support. And one of the things that we had to come to grasp with, that I kind of had to talk my principals off the ledge, is that we cannot meet every single parent's expectations. That's just not possible in today's world. And so we had to be okay with the fact that there were some people that just said, I'm not comfortable with my kid at school right now, and that's okay. And the other part of it that they were really focusing on, like we did, you know, Tyler was talking about the field trips and all these things. And so summer enrichment looks a lot different because they're not doing a lot of those things. And if I've had one kid, I've had 100 kids ask me, when are we going to the pool? You know, and it's like, we might get to the pool this year, we might not. And that's okay. And I think that's the thing that that we've had to really discuss, is that we're going to do what we can for as long as we can, and meet the needs of as many people as we can. And so we're doing a lot of pieces that, you know, that we're really trying hard to make it great still. But I think it is one of those deals that we are social distancing during the pickups. We've changed that whole procedure. We're only letting a certain amount of adults, and they are kind of the same way they enter and they exit very, you know, the way that they should, is with as little contact as we can have and with as few people in the building as we can. But it was still one of those things that some people are like, I'm just not okay with that many kids in a gym. Then we can't do anything else about that. Like, what can we do to help, you know, or with your student in those ways? And some of them just, you know, pull their kids. And so I just want to tell you that's just, I feel like that's where we live right now, and that may be where we live for a while. But you just have to make sure that administration, school board, and then community-wise, you know, really following that health director for your county, or whoever your, you know, entity is. For us, that's who it is. And then just, it is one day at a time with all of those pieces, and then doing what we can to make up for it in some other ways. And my enrichment staff has been really creative to give some other opportunities that kind of make up for those field trips. And that's been something that's been really, really positive. So, but I think we as professionals also have to be careful and continue to say, like, you know, we're keeping kids safe. We want to do everything that we can. Like, we don't know that it's going to keep kids safe, but we're doing everything we can to try to move in that direction. And so I just continue to say, you know, we are doing everything we can to remove as many question marks as we can, but that's all, we're following guidelines. And that was something that was asked earlier, you know, about like with the just sanitizing everything as much as we can, and doing as good of a job as we can on that.
Thank you, Colleen. Anyone else? Just somebody want to maybe share changes that were unexpected to them, and I think it's interesting that a lot of you have cited some unexpected things, you know, that you're happy about, you know, like the children's behavior might be a little bit better because they're in smaller groups. So there's just some things that are going to come out of this that are going to be positives that maybe become practices moving down the road.
I think something that we were super worried about initially was we had to cap our programming. So summer school, we were only taking 20 kids per site, which we run 6 sites. So that scared us because that's a big group of people who we're not going to be able to service because we have to cap it. And then looking forward to that with our summer programming, we run a 120 summer program, and I had to cap it at 80. So we were super concerned about the capping, what that would do. But to our surprise, and it's been great, everyone's been super understanding about it, and we really have not actually capped out yet, even with those restrictions, because people are understanding of that. So like summer school starts next week, and I still have some spaces in some of my programs, and my camp program's not full yet. We're about half full, and we still have registration open for 2 more weeks. But so that was something we were worried about, was we weren't going to be able to service as many people in our community. But generally speaking, everyone's been really understanding, and it's kind of like what Colleen was saying. We've told them we're doing the best we can, and if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. They don't have to be here. So if you aren't comfortable with that, that's fine. So that was something I think that we were initially worried about when we talked about heavily about what that was going to look like for our program, and that was something that was a good thing that came out of it, that everyone kind of understood. And I think as a whole, I think everyone's really been super understanding in general about everything that we've kind of pushed out. We haven't had too many angry conversations or people heated because of decisions, because people have been super understanding. So definitely something special in that. Hopefully this continues as we go through this kind of the new waters we're in.
Okay. Well, we're getting close to the end of time, but I do want to ask real quick, Casey and Terrance, I believe, they're doing, Casey's doing 3 different delivery methods, and then Terrance mentioned that he's doing 2. So I want to know, I mean, how much of a workload does that add to be combining virtual and take home, or in Casey's case, the digital virtual and take home? I mean, how much extra work is it on the staff, or are you able to cross-reference and make them all work and make an activity work in all 3 settings?
Well, it's I mean, it's just, I guess it's more work, and it's just that if we didn't have the barriers in terms of the technology divide, but I mean, it's just a matter of really. It's just been a matter of coordinating with schools to know when we were going to be picking up packets to deliver them on their behalf, and then it's a matter of really coordinating with all of our staff and the various partners to try to get the resources to the kids. So I don't think it's been more work. Someone earlier mentioned being surprised by the response of some of the kids. Those kids who did have access to and do, I should say, have access to technology and computers in the home. Surprised by it. Their response to it seemed as though they really liked the independence of it, and then being able to manipulate technology kind of in the same way that they had been previously on some of those same platforms they used anyway, like, and that's particularly for those older kids, for Facebook and all those other mediums that they use. But I don't think it's been more work, but it's just a matter of coordinating and trying to be on the same page with the district to make sure that we're meeting the needs.
Okay, thank you, Terrance. Okay, Casey, did you want to add anything to that?
She may have dropped off, Lynna.
I know, I recall she said she was at home with her children, so. Okay, well.
We had one question.
Sure.
If we want to throw it out there, just about the handling of materials that can't be disinfected over stretches of time. So they said, paper depending on the source, it can, the virus can last a few minutes, up to 5 days. So what about things that can't be disinfected over stretches of time?
That's a great question. Our nurse in our admin meeting about a week ago had a great quote. She said, and this is really good, we cannot completely remove the risk. Our job is to minimize the risk the best we can. And I think we just live by that. A lot of stuff we can avoid to use during the program if we feel like we cannot disinfect that. So we kind of try to stay away from it. But I love that quote because, like Colleen said, we're just trying our best and we're doing this the best we can. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that, but
yeah, and I think like we had kind of a conversation with my supervisors this week about camp, and we really heavily talked about like just some things we're just gonna have to, if we can't sanitize them, we have to look at maybe that's something we don't use, or maybe that's something that we can use, but maybe it's a one-time use situation, so it can be thrown away or whatever it may be. And so, but it's like kind of what Cris said, it is what it is. Some things we're just not gonna be able to do right now, and we just have to get creative at doing it. So.
Okay. Okay, I just do want to point you to the, it's located at the Georgia Statewide Afterschool Network, and I put a link to this at the very beginning of the chat when we started, if you want to scroll back up to that, or you can copy it from the URL bar. But again, the activity guides are set up by these age groups, and these webinars that so they had one last week and then yesterday, so you can go back and watch them. They're listed here under the webinar opportunities. And down here at the bottom, these summer activity guides, I'm going to let you go ahead and look at them on your own in the interest of time. And it has, one thing I like, whenever I program directly with kids, I always like the supply list. I'm like, what do I need? How much? And so this I think is a really nice feature of the summer activity guide, so that you know exactly what you should get. So, but the information that we covered today are under these two supplemental materials guides here listed on the right, and so you can see more in detail. And what I like, I'm looking at the implementing the summer activity guide. So I covered a little bit of that, but when you read through this, you guys all said that you were doing these things. And so that's the part of the intuition of people who work in the after school setting or with kids, because they know what needs to happen to make things work. So this will be an affirming document to what you're doing and what you plan to do. So keep an eye out. Next week will be some rollout of some more activity guides. So under these supplemental materials next week will be packets about how to keep youth engaged while they're learning at home, and then also how you can support the families and the people in the home. So be watching for those. Those will roll out next week, and then the next module of the activity guides will be on, and of course I can't see it. Well, anyway, there's another one next week. So get to the right page here, because I don't remember the orders without looking. Oh, well, you will see. So watch the pipeline, and it'll be listed there. And then you can sign up for these. They're nationwide webinars, but you can get it directly from the people who created these activity guides that have the challenges and the activities, and then also the supplemental materials when you work with kids and families in the after school setting. So thank you all for your time, and I really want to give a big round of applause to all of our short notice, very short notice. That's always good. You know, you knew you were available or not, and you didn't forget. So I'm glad you were here and able to share your expertise and your experiences, and we can continue the conversation. There is one more little thing. The rapid response is on that Terry has worked with certain groups. It's on the get to the right tab. Anyway, there's a Google Doc that's been created, and there's a few things there, again, kind of repetitive of what we've talked about today. But then if you see resources that would be good about rapid response for summer planning, send it to Brad, and then he'll see if it's something that can be added to this rapid response. And so we'll get this, I'm sure this link has been in the pipeline as well. So again, thank you very much, and see if are there any questions, Brad, here, or?
No, I think we're good. Lots of thanks, everyone. Great information. It is so helpful to hear from people who are actually doing this. It takes it out of that theoretical and, oh, maybe we could, and puts it into, oh, we did already, whether that's virtual, in person, whatever. So yeah, so all of you who presented, thank you so much for jumping on with us.